Hey there! Welcome to our YouTube channel, Financial Literacy. Today we're going to be talking about a really important and interesting topic: reasons why poor people hate the rich. It's a topic that is both complex and controversial, and it's important to understand the reasons behind the resentment that many people feel towards those who are wealthy. Now, before we dive into the topic, let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered why some people hate the rich so much? Perhaps you know someone who has expressed their disdain towards those who are financially well off, or maybe you have had those feelings yourself. Whatever the case may be, it's important to understand the reasons behind these feelings. So, in this video, we're going to be exploring the reasons behind the resentment that some people feel towards the rich. We'll be looking at historical context, the perception of the rich in the media and popular culture, economic inequality, exploitation of the poor, and lack of opportunities. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of the reasons behind the hate and why it's important to have financial literacy. So, buckle up, get comfortable, and let's dive in. When we talk about poverty, we generally refer to the lack of basic necessities like food, shelter, clothing, and healthcare. It's a state where individuals or families do not have the resources to meet their basic needs. The World Bank defines poverty as living on less than $1.90 per day. However, poverty isn't just about money. It's also about access to resources, opportunities, and social services. Poverty is a complex issue that has far-reaching consequences on individuals, families, and entire communities. On the other hand, wealth refers to the abundance of resources, assets, and income. It's a state where individuals or families have enough resources to live comfortably and enjoy a high standard of living. Wealth is often associated with material possessions like houses, cars, and luxury goods. However, wealth can also be in the form of financial assets like stocks, bonds, and investments. It's important to note that poverty and wealth are relative terms. What may be considered poverty in one country may not be the same in another. Similarly, what may be considered wealth in one part of the world may not be the same in another. Poverty and wealth also have cultural and social implications. In some cultures, having a large family and a tight-knit community may be considered more valuable than material possessions. When we look at poverty and wealth, we need to consider the distribution of resources and opportunities within a society. Economic inequality, which refers to the unequal distribution of income, wealth, and assets, can exacerbate poverty and widen the wealth gap. This can create a cycle where poverty leads to further poverty, and wealth leads to more wealth. So, understanding the definitions of poverty and wealth is essential in understanding the reasons why poor people hate the rich. Poverty and wealth are not just about money or material possessions. They are complex issues that are shaped by social, cultural, and economic factors. To address the hate towards the rich, we need to consider the systemic issues that create poverty and wealth inequality. To understand the root causes of this phenomenon, we must first take a look at the history of economic inequality. For centuries, the rich have had more power and influence over society than the poor. The wealthy have been able to accumulate and control resources, which has given them a significant advantage over those who have less. One of the earliest examples of this can be seen in the feudal systems of medieval Europe. The wealthy nobles held all the land and resources, and the peasants who worked the land had very little say in how things were run. This led to a system where the rich got richer and the poor got poorer, with no real opportunity for upward mobility. Moving forward in time, we can see similar patterns of economic inequality in the Industrial Revolution. The rise of capitalism and industrialization created immense wealth for some, but left many others in poverty. The exploitation of workers was rampant, with long hours and low wages being the norm. Meanwhile, the owners of factories and other businesses were able to accumulate vast fortunes. In the United States, the Gilded Age of the late 19th century was marked by extreme wealth for a few, and extreme poverty for many. The robber barons, as they were called, were able to amass incredible wealth through monopolies and other questionable business practices. Meanwhile, The working class struggled to make ends meet and often had to work in dangerous and unsanitary conditions. These historical examples are just a few of many that illustrate the long-standing patterns of economic inequality. They show how the rich have been able to gain and maintain power and influence over society, often at the expense of the poor. Today, we still see similar patterns of economic inequality. The top 1% of Americans hold more wealth than the bottom 90% combined, and this gap is only widening. The rich are able to use their money and influence to shape public policy, while the poor often lack a voice in the decision-making process. All of these factors contribute to the resentment that many poor people feel towards the rich. It's not just a matter of jealousy or envy, it's a reaction to the real and perceived injustices of economic inequality. When the rich are seen as hoarding resources and taking advantage of others, it's no wonder that some people start to feel angry and resentful. Of course, it's important to note that not all wealthy people are exploitative or unfair. There are many who use their wealth and influence for good, and who genuinely care about making the world a better place. However, the historical context of economic inequality cannot be ignored, and it's essential to understand this context in order to fully grasp the reasons behind the hate that some poor people feel towards the rich. Perception of the rich is a complex and multifaceted topic, with many different factors contributing to how poor people view the wealthy. The media and popular culture have played a significant role in shaping the way people view the rich, often portraying them as living lavish and extravagant lifestyles, with little regard for the struggles of those less fortunate. If you turn on the television or browse through social media, you'll often see images of wealthy celebrities driving expensive cars, wearing designer clothing, and living in luxurious homes. While these images may be aspirational for some, they can also breed resentment and anger among those who are struggling to make ends meet. The perception of the rich is not just limited to the media, however. In many cases, people have personal experiences that shape their views of the wealthy. For example, if someone has worked for a wealthy employer who treated them poorly or paid him unfairly, they may develop a negative view of the rich as a group. At the same time, it's important to acknowledge that not all wealthy people are the same. While there are certainly individuals who fit the stereotype of the out-of-touch, rich person, there are also many who use their wealth to make positive changes in the world, through charitable donations or other forms of philanthropy. Ultimately, the perception of the rich is a reflection of broader societal values and beliefs. If we live in a society that places a high value on material wealth and consumerism, it's likely that we will view the rich in a more positive light. Conversely, if we value equality and social justice, we may be more likely to view the wealthy as a symbol of everything that is wrong with the world. It's also worth noting that the perception of the rich is not static. As economic conditions change, so too do people's attitudes towards the wealthy. For example, during times of economic hardship or recession, there may be a greater sense of anger and frustration towards those who are seen as benefiting from the economic system at the expense of others. Economic inequality is a major factor in why poor people hate the rich. Economic inequality is the unequal distribution of wealth among individuals in a society or between different societies. It is the difference in the economic well-being of different groups of people. It's a problem that has been around for a long time, but in recent years, it has become increasingly pronounced. To get a better understanding of economic inequality, let's look at some statistics. According to a recent report from Oxfam, the world's richest 1% own more than twice as much wealth as 6.9 billion people, or about 90% of the world's population. This is a staggering figure that highlights just how extreme economic inequality has become. This kind of extreme wealth concentration is not only morally unjust, but it also has practical implications. It can lead to a lack of social mobility, meaning that people born into poverty are more likely to stay in poverty, and people born into wealth are more likely to stay wealthy. This is because those born into wealth have more opportunities and resources at their disposal, such as access to education and better healthcare. This lack of social mobility creates a cycle of poverty that is difficult to break. Furthermore, economic inequality can also lead to political inequality. Wealthy individuals and corporations can use their resources to influence political decision-making in their favor. This can lead to policies that benefit the rich at the expense of the poor, such as tax breaks and loopholes that allow the rich to avoid paying their fair share. The growing economic inequality also leads to an increase in poverty rates, as the poor are left with fewer resources and opportunities to improve their economic situation. This, in turn, can lead to increased crime rates, social unrest, and political instability. Another aspect of economic inequality is the wage gap. In many countries, the gap between the highest paid workers and the lowest paid workers is growing. This means that those at the top are making more and more money, while those at the bottom are struggling to make ends meet. This can be seen in the United States, where the top 1% of earners now take home 20% of all income, while the bottom 50% of earners take home just 13% of all income. Now, let's talk about how the poor are exploited, which is one of the reasons why they hate the rich. It's important to understand that exploitation can occur in various forms, and it's not always easy to detect. In fact, some of the most common forms of exploitation are so subtle that many people may not even realize it's happening to them. One of the most blatant forms of exploitation is in the workplace. Poor people are often stuck in low-paying jobs with little to no job security or benefits. These jobs often require long hours, with little pay or opportunity for advancement. Employers take advantage of their desperate situation and use their lack of bargaining power to keep wages low and working conditions poor. This is particularly true for undocumented workers who are even more vulnerable to exploitation due to their undocumented status. Furthermore, many companies are known to use sweatshops in developing countries where labor laws are weak or non-existent. These sweatshops often employ children and pay them a fraction of what they would earn in the West. The goods produced in these sweatshops are then sold in Western countries at a high markup, with the profits going to the wealthy business owners. The housing market is another area where the poor are exploited. Poor people are often forced to live in substandard housing with high rents or mortgages. Landlords take advantage of the lack of affordable housing options, charging exorbitant rents for apartments in poor condition. They often refuse to make repairs or do so only after a long period, leaving tenants in living conditions that are hazardous to their health. In addition, banks and lending institutions often exploit the poor through predatory lending practices. These lenders target low-income communities, offering high-interest loans with complex terms that the borrower cannot fully understand. The borrower is then unable to repay the loan, leading to foreclosure, repossession, and other devastating consequences. All of these forms of exploitation contribute to the resentment that poor people feel towards the rich. They see the wealthy taking advantage of their desperate situation, with little regard for their well-being. It's important to note that not all rich people engage in such behavior, but the exploitation of the poor is certainly prevalent in society. One of the main reasons why poor people hate the rich is because they feel like they don't have the same opportunities as the wealthy. In many cases, this is true. The rich have access to better education, more resources, and more connections that can help them get ahead in life. Meanwhile, the poor are often stuck in a cycle of poverty, struggling just to make ends meet. This lack of opportunities is particularly pronounced when it comes to education. The rich can afford to send their children to the best schools and universities, giving them a head start in life. Meanwhile, poor children often attend underfunded schools that don't have the resources to provide a quality education. This leaves them at a disadvantage when it comes to getting a good job and advancing in their careers. Another factor that contributes to the lack of opportunities for poor people is discrimination. Many poor people belong to marginalized groups, such as people of color or immigrants, that face systemic discrimination in many areas of life. This discrimination can make it difficult for them to access education, find good jobs, and advance in their careers. Additionally, poor people often don't have access to the same resources as the wealthy. For example, they may not have access to reliable transportation, which can make it difficult for them to get to work or attend job interviews. They may not have access to affordable housing, which can make it difficult for them to live in safe and healthy environments. They may also lack access to healthcare and other basic services that can help them stay healthy and productive. All of these factors combine to create a cycle of poverty that is difficult to break. Poor people often lack the resources and opportunities they need to improve their lives, which can lead to feelings of hopelessness and despair. Meanwhile, the wealthy continue to thrive, benefiting from a system that is rigged in their favor. It's important to recognize that this lack of opportunities is not just a problem for poor people. It's also a problem for society as a whole. When we don't provide equal opportunities to everyone, we're wasting the potential of millions of people who could contribute to our economy and our society. We're also perpetuating inequality, which can lead to social unrest and instability. So, what can we do to address this problem? One solution is to invest in education and job training programs that can help people improve their skills and access better jobs. We also need to address discrimination and bias in all areas of life, including education, employment, and housing. Finally, we need to provide more resources to poor communities, such as affordable housing, healthcare, and transportation, that can help them improve their quality of life. It's important to note that this isn't just an issue of personal feelings or emotions. These factors contribute to systemic inequality that affects millions of people around the world. By understanding the root causes of this resentment, we can work towards creating a more just and equitable society. One way to do this is by increasing financial literacy. By learning about personal finance, budgeting, and investing, individuals can take control of their own financial futures and break free from the cycle of poverty. Financial literacy also empowers people to make informed decisions about their money and investments, allowing them to grow their wealth and improve their lives. That's why I encourage you to subscribe to Financial Literacy, our channel here on YouTube. Our videos provide valuable information on personal finance, investing, and budgeting, helping you make informed decisions about your money. With our help, you can increase your financial literacy and take control of your financial future. Thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe to Financial Literacy for more informative videos on personal finance and investing.